Hello, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Michelle.
Welcome to Tudoriferous, the biographical podcast that examines lives in the Tudor era.
And today, Gerald Fitzgerald, Part 2, a.k.a. Kildare, because it just gets too confusing.
Yeah, especially adding two Geralds to his name. So we learnt last week that you can't keep a good man down, really, can you?
Especially when he's apparently got the gift of the gab to just keep on going.
Well, before we get into Perkin and his shenanigans, a quick interlude to look at the feud between the Fitzgeralds of Kildare and the Butlers of Ormond. And this stemmed partly from the fact that they both wanted the position of Lord Deputy.
Mm-hmm.
Kildare had it, or Ormond wanted it. But in fact, this had been going on for a long time over several issues. It was proper Montacute and Capulet type feud.
Oh. Are people actually dying?
Yes.
Oh.
They're just enemies. They don't actually need anything concrete to fight about.
Oh,
they
dear.
are enemies. Kildare had got into trouble with Henry about the constant wrangling between the two families. So Kildare sent messages to the English court. It's okay, I'm still loyal to you, I just can't stand the Butlers. But Henry threw the messengers into prison.
Oh, the messengers. Don't shoot the
Yeah.
messengers.
No, I know, the poor messengers are getting really bad stick with all this. In March, Henry sent 300 troops to sort out the situation and to offer Kildare a pardon on condition that he send his son to the English court within 6 months. Well, Kildare accepted the pardon, but he didn't bother to send his son.
Thank you. Wait, no, there's the second part. No, there wasn't.
Nope, didn't get that.
Nope.
So I'm going through a tunnel. Can't hear you. Even with the troops there, the rioting got worse, and, as I said, several Dubliners were killed. Henry decided that he would have to arbitrate between Kildares and the Butlers himself, although not him. He was hearing rumours that Perkin was planning to invade from Flanders. And we know what a damp squib it turned out to be, but Henry could hardly ignore it.
No,
That's
well,
how he got
you
the
never
crown.
know. We've got hindsight. He has no idea. For all he knows, everybody's coming to take him.
Yeah.
That would have been terrible.
He certainly turned round. He was on progress, wasn't he? He turned round to come back, and then I forget, and I got the one all in a mush in my mind.
Yes,
Bray and
which one does
Morton,
what?
And yes, one of them said, "Don't bother, we got it sorted."
Yeah.
In 1492, the Fitzgerald-Butler feud boiled over into violence once again, and one of the skirmishes took place just outside Dublin. The Butlers realised that they were in trouble, and they took refuge in the chapter house of St Patrick's Cathedral. The Fitzgeralds stormed into the cathedral after them, and Kildare called for them to come out, but very wisely they wouldn't. So he took an axe and started hacking at the door of the chapter house, Jack Nicholson style. The Butlers must have been terrified. But Kildare only cut a small hole in the door, and he thrust his hand through as an act of friendship. Kildare and the Butlers shook hands, and then the Butlers emerged from the chapter house. I mean, it could have had a horrific ending, as Kildare was out there still clutching the axe, taking them down one by one. But no, the two families agreed to bury the hatchet, so to speak, and they were friends from then on. The door became known as the Door of Reconciliation, and you can still see it on display in the cathedral's north transept. Mind you, if you look at it, there's no way that hole was made with an axe. It's very neat and rectangular.
Oh, yeah. That's more like a saw did it. Or it was built that way.
Or this is not the original door, and this is one that's been put there later.
Can you hear them?
Yes. We should just say you're being attacked by woodpeckers,
Yes.
so if you can hear
My house is
thumping
wood.
noise.
I have a wood roof, and right now they are going after all of it.
Bless them. Even more interestingly than the door, it's from this event that we get the phrase, to chance your arm. Since the Butlers could well have chopped Kildare's arm off, he took a chance and it paid off.
Right.
Well, so they say. Anyway, back to Perkin. Back in 1491, in November, a young man had disembarked from a Breton ship, and he was dressed to the nines in silks and damasks. Desmond actively supported Perkin, which strongly implies that all the concessions Henry gave him and his family hadn't had any effect at all. Kildare seemed to be keeping his head down. He didn't come out in favour of Perkin, but he didn't arrest him and send him to England either.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Henry was damned if he was going to let matters get as far as they had with Simnel, and Kildare was going to suffer for his inaction. Henry managed to drive a wedge between Kildare and Desmond, and he took Tipperary and Kilkenny away from Kildare's control, which, compared to what he could have done, seems very trivial.
Yes.
But why did Desmond side with Perkin? Because logically, as a Lancastrian, he should have been Team Henry.
Yeah.
And yet, more than any other of the lords, he threw in his lot with Perkin.
Why?
It seems unlikely he wanted Perkin to be king, particularly. It smacks more of ambition, because under Henry, Kildare was top dog in Ireland. I mean, Henry had toyed with the idea of replacing him with Desmond, but
It didn't.
for some reason this never worked. Kildare was just too strong. But under Perkin, Desmond could expect a lot more power and influence. In England as well as Ireland, no one does anything for a decent reason at this time.
No.
Always ambition. In 1492, Henry had managed to put power into the hand of a wider number of people rather than just Kildare. In fact, Kildare was very lucky that Henry didn't punish him more for his inaction.
No kidding. But could he have? Honestly, could he have? Does he have the power in Ireland to be able to pull things from this guy?
Well, legally, he could have had him executed as a traitor. He hadn't handed over Perkin.
But if
yeah.
everybody else is ignoring them, would he... Yeah, sorry. Would he have actually been able to go through with it? Like, would somebody in Ireland have carried out that sentence? I don't know if they would.
I don't know. I don't know whether he'd have been able to. I mean, obviously not, since it wasn't done.
Yeah.
He must have thought about it. He must have had people saying, look, you can't keep forgiving these people.
Yes. I'm starting to wonder if it's because there was not enough power in Ireland for him actually to be able to do that. Possibly.
Well, all the power is with Kildare, so no. Kildare, go and execute yourself.
Yes, please do. Please do.
To counteract this, Henry tried to build up the Butlers' influence, Kildare's natural enemy, but this just exacerbated the feud between the two families, which was, sort of being sorted out. Kildare refused to cooperate with Henry. He said, right, that's it. If you're going to do that, I'm not playing anymore. And as soon as he did this, the gentry were, quote, universally plundered and burnt from every quarter by the Irish, unquote.
See, that's why he couldn't do it.
Yeah, he's saying, look what would happen if I weren't here.
Mm-hmm.
I think he probably set the whole thing up and said, right, I'm stepping out of it for a bit.
Yeah.
You wait. Hey. You wait and see what happens.
Okay, you go there. You go there.
Yes.
You go there. Take him out.
Yeah. But in February 1492, Kildare wrote to Thomas Butler, Earl of Ormond, who was the Queen's Chamberlain, asking him, just put in a good word for me, would you?
Please help.
The King's not happy with me again. And presumably this worked since Henry granted Kildare a pardon in March and again in June. I don't know why he needed to, but he got to. But this was conditional on him going to England before November the 1st. Kildare was also granted safe conduct for himself, his baggage, and his entourage of 80 people. And before he came, he should send his son to Henry. I have told you to do this before. Would you please send me your son, like I asked?
Answer, no.
Kildare had claimed he'd never backed Perkin. At most, he was guilty of not apprehending him and sending him to England. It was nothing to do with me.
No, wasn't me. Wasn't me.
It was Desmond, it wasn't me. But was he telling the truth? In his confession, Perkin said that he had alerted, quote, his cousins, unquote, to expect him in Ireland. Once he was there, he would show himself as King Edward's son. He also wrote to Isabella, telling her that his cousins had recognised him. And his cousins are obviously Desmond and Kildare. But, and I don't really want to get into this again, but did Perkin write Perkin's confession, or did Henry write Perkin's confession? Was Henry just dobbing Kildare and Desmond in it? But Margaret, this is fascinating. Margaret of Burgundy wrote to Isabella, quote, "Last year, the Earls of Desmond and Kildare, the chief lords of Ireland, wrote to me that the second son of Edward, late King of England, my most beloved brother, by name Richard Plantagenet, Duke of York, who everyone thought was dead, was still alive, and was with those earls in Ireland, safe and held in great honour. They affirmed this with letters reinforced with their seals and with a sacred oath, and they prayed that I might be willing to bring help and assistance to this same Duke of York by the law of necessity and blood, and promised they would also help him themselves," unquote. And then she goes on to say, quote, "These things seem to me to be ravings and dreams," unquote. So this seems to have come as news to Margaret, who up to this point had assumed her nephew was dead, and she heard it from Desmond and Kildare.
Oh.
Kildare's saying, no, I never had no interest in Perkin. And they put their seals on the letter, so it bound them to their word. And according to Margaret, this is why Perkin had got the earls to write rather than doing it himself, because he didn't have a seal. So he couldn't stress that he was writing it on oath. He wasn't making it up nor nothing. You know, they'd said it and they were under oath. But it does seem extraordinary that they should have sealed the letter, not only with a seal but with an oath, because they've never seen the Duke of York.
No. There's no link there at all.
No, they didn't know what he looked like. They must have been purely going on his own word. Kildare strenuously denied anything of the sort. In a letter to the Earl of Ormond, he complained that he'd been accused of, quote, comforting and lying with the French lad, quote. Edward Brampton had claimed that Perkin only spoke French, so that's what might be the confusion why he called him the French lad. And also Henry called him Le Garçon, so...
Le Garçon.
But he wanted to make very clear he was innocent of these charges. So yet again we're faced with two mutually exclusive possibilities with no way of telling which is true. Is Kildare right to say, no, I knew nothing about him, I had nothing to do with him? Or was he writing to Margaret to say, no, it's all right, he's here, we're looking after him? I don't know whether the letters to Margaret of Burgundy with the seals on them are still extant. I mean, that would clinch it. Unless they were a forgery.
I wish we had a time-traveling machine and you were invisible. Just be there in those rooms while they have those discussions.
But we can't. No. Kildare could call on the law to back him as to why he hadn't arrested Perkin. Because as we heard, Richard Duke of York had passed a law when he was Lieutenant of Ireland, stating that English rebels had immunity in Ireland. And he obviously wasn't thinking of Perkin when he did this, he was thinking of himself. However, that law was still on the statute books. It's like, how can this be? Lambert Simnel has already done his thing in Ireland. Surely, if that law existed, it would have been repealed after the Battle of Stoke. I can't imagine Henry just leaving it there thinking,
no.
Well, I could repeal it, but I can't believe any other pretenders would take advantage of this loophole.
Yes.
We did hear that Edward IV had wanted to repeal some of the laws that the Irish Parliament had passed, and they just ignored him, so maybe the same thing happened with Henry. 1493. 2 commissioners were sent to Dublin and persuaded the Irish lords to pass a series of ordinances to quell the disorder. Kildare and others agreed to the bonds and recognizances that they had refused to accept when Edgecombe had gone over there. The Irish lords were also summoned to the English court. Fitzsimmons and Ormond both hopped on a boat and set off. However, we know that Kildare was still in Ireland in September of that year because he acknowledged a bond to keep the peace. But he was at the English court on Twelfth Night 1494 since he attended a banquet, so he really did go there this time. Wow. I don't know what persuaded him finally to say, oh, all right, I'm coming.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you £100 a day if you come to visit. That's what made him come.
That doesn't sound very Henry-ish, does it?
No, it doesn't. But I honestly,
No.
like, why would you go? You have now offended this king over and over and over again. Do you really want to meet this person in person? No, I don't.
I wonder if he left it that long because he was thinking, I really have pushed it, haven't I?
Mm-hmm.
He's not happy with me. I can't believe I'm just being invited over to dinner. I mean, it's got to be more than that.
Yeah. This is going to be a barn burning where they invite you over for dinner. They have a big dinner and everybody leaves. And then, your people leave and then you burn down the barn.
We learn all about this English jaunt from the Book of Howth, the famous Book of Howth. The 7th Lord of Howth took it much later from the writings of Walter Hussey, who had been a witness to much of this journey. And Hussey was an official in the Irish Exchequer and retainer of one of the lords who had made the trip to the English court. And this is the account that is recounted in numerous history books. And the date, 1489, is the one that Hussey gives us. He did get the date of Simnel's coronation wrong, and there's reason to think he's got it wrong on this occasion too. At least the historian Randolph Jones thinks so. Hussey, incidentally, had the distinction of living to over 100 years old.
Really?
Quite good going. Mm.
Did he really, or did they just not know his birthday and just put it somewhere fantastic?
I don't know, it seems an odd bit of information for this man.
True.
Well, apart from this, we know very little about him. The reason Henry summoned the lords was to make sure they didn't do anything stupid like accepting Perkin as their king. Hence his comment, quote, "My masters of Ireland, you will crown apes at length," unquote. There must have been a lot of foot shuffling and... No, we won't.
Oh, no.
If the date 1489 is right, then Henry's really thinking ahead, since Perkin didn't arrive in Ireland until 2 years later. So surely it makes more sense to put this meeting at the point after Perkin had been in Ireland when he was whisked off to France. But whatever the date, Kildare and several other lords did go to the English court, and Henry got Lambert Simnel to serve the wine at supper, at dinner.
Right.
At first the Irish lords didn't recognise him, but when they did, they refused to take the wine, which I assumed meant they still saw him as kingly material and didn't want to be turning him into a waiter. But no, apparently they told him to go to hell. No, to go to the devil.
Isn't that the same thing?
It is, but it's a quote. They said, go to the devil. All except Lord Howth, apparently, who, quote, "being a merry gentleman, accepted it for the wine's sake, and for his own, stating that their servitor was only a poor innocent," unquote. So they all seem to have dropped poor Simnel like a hot potato. Only Howth was sorry for him. Or he didn't want to go without his wine. And this is why this date, rather than the 1489, makes more sense as far as Simnel is concerned, and why they didn't recognise him when he served them the wine, because there's a big difference between a 10-year-old boy and a 17-year-old.
Yes. Yes, there is.
The following day, there was something of a love day.
Oh, God. No more love days. Come on. This is not good.
Well, the Irish lords were paired with English lords, and the Book of Howth tells us that Lord Howth was paired with a young man who was so scared that he could barely speak. He had seen the axe being carried in the procession and was terrified in case, as he called it, some butchery should be done that day.
Yeah.
I bet all the Irish lords were worried about that. But Lord Howth pointed out to him that the axe was turned away, so he was quite safe. The young man said that he was afraid since both his father and his grandfather had been beheaded.
Jeez.
Well, no one knows who this young lord was, but Randolph Jones, writing in the Ricardian, thinks that it can only have been Edward, now I have a special friend, Plantagenet.
But he wasn't there.
Well, his father, George, he wasn't beheaded. He was drowned.
Yeah.
But his grandfather was beheaded, and his head was made to wear a paper crown. And incidentally, his great-grandfather was executed as well. So that's 4 generations.
4 generations, jeez.
Yeah. If this was Edward Plantagenet, and he'd have been about 19 at this time, he would have then been sent back to his quarters in the Tower of London after his day out, which is a bit sad.
Yes.
But by the sound of it, he wasn't enjoying it much.
No.
just seemed terrified. I wonder if it's touch of agoraphobia.
Well, if he'd been in the tower all that time and it was him, yeah, I could see that.
If it were Edward Plantagenet who had been paired with Lord Howth at the Loveday, and the Irish lords were served by Simnel at supper, Henry was saying, "Look, there were two of them. They're not the same person. Have you got that now? Two different people." After a while, the Irish lords complained that life in the English court was just too expensive, and they were allowed to go home. It seems odd to have guests that have to wait till they're allowed to go home. If your guests are saying, "Can I go home now, please?"
No.
They're not really guests, are they?
Yeah.
Lord Howth was apparently given the clothes Henry wore that day. Nice. I wonder if they were washed first, or whether it just took them off and handed them over. Kildare stayed on at court, although he was skint as well. On the 10th of March, the king gave him a grant of £5 a week, backdated to 25th of February.
Oh.
So Kildare received 2 payments of £40 and £20. So we can work out that he seems to have remained for at least 12 weeks. That's until May. And he agreed to help Henry reconcile with Desmond. And Desmond agreed to send his son to Kildare as guarantee of good behaviour. So it's all lovely.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for the axe to fall.
Well, I don't know. I'm hoping Desmond hadn't sent his son to Kildare by this point. And I hope not, because it would show he didn't have much love for the boy. Because when Perkin threatened invasion, Desmond immediately raised a rebellion again.
Oh, jeez.
And Henry was back to square one, having spent £4,000 on this whole reconciliation thing. And so he decided to send in the Poynings. So 1494, Edward Poyning's arrival saw a culmination in Henry's policy to increase English control. Henry wrote that he was sending, quote, "a powerful army for the protection and defence of our land of Ireland and faithful subjects there, to attack and conquer our enemies and rebels and to restore the sovereignty," unquote. And he was claiming that the enemies and rebels were the Gaelic Irish. It seems unlikely that was his primary worry, because he's not shown a lot of interest in the Gaelic Irish before.
No.
His main problem is the Anglo-Irish.
Yes.
Poynings was really there to prevent Ireland from siding with Perkin and to bring Desmond down a peg or two. The 653 soldiers garrisoned in Ireland was hardly a large enough force to subdue the Gaelic Irish, but it might be enough to quell any potential rising in favour of Perkin. And it had long been thought that Henry was intent on conquering the whole of Ireland. All the monarchs seem to get this. Oh, I'm sure he wants the whole thing. They never do.
No.
They never want to do this.
We just can't get rid of what we have.
He had made grandiose announcement to this effect, but I think that was because the Anglo-Irish lords had implied that this conquering could be self-financing. They'd obviously cottoned on to Henry.
Yeah. All he wants is money. We need to make it sound...
Tell him it won't cost him anything.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was that with the English Pale enlarged into the Gaelic Irish territories, there would be more security in the area, leading to greater ability to trade. And the money would just flood into the English coffers.
Of course it will.
Yeah. But with 653 men to conquer the whole of Ireland, no.
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 It seems to be a phase that monarchs go through. September 1494, Henry made his son, Prince Henry, not only Lieutenant of Ireland, but also Duke of York. There could only be one Duke of York, and young Henry was
Look,
it, and
right
Perkin was not.
Nope.
Edward Poynings was appointed deputy on the assumption that a 4-year-old child might need some help with governing Ireland.
Oh, you think? Really?
He's very precocious.
Yeah.
I bet he said I could do it.
Yeah.
I don't need him, I can do it. I'm not sure where this leaves Kildare, because he's meant to be the deputy. They seem to have got another one. Henry also appointed Sir Hugh Conway as treasurer. To quote Tudor Ireland by Stephen G. Ellis, Conway was, quote, loyal and experienced, but also incompetent, unquote.
Experienced incompetence.
He was soon replaced by his predecessor, Sir James Ormond. However, Conway was made Constable of Limerick Castle so he could keep an eye on Desmond and report back what he was up to. Soon after Poynings arrived in Ireland, he called for the convening of Parliament to meet at Drogheda. He also negotiated peace with the Gaelic chiefs, and he went north with Kildare, who was able to have informal chats with the chiefs, which they responded to favourably. But presumably they were speaking Irish, and so Poynings didn't understand. Poynings became convinced that Kildare was secretly encouraging them to resist. And he arrested Kildare and had him packed off to England, and he was attainted by the Irish Parliament. So quite a dramatic turnaround for Kildare.
Yeah.
But also quite a wrench for Poynings, since he needed Kildare's cooperation and his army if he were to defend the Pale. I can't help feeling that Poynings has shot himself in the foot.
Yes.
But I suppose if this man's talking and you'll think, oh, I don't know what he's saying, he could be saying anything.
Yeah.
Look, they're laughing now. Why would they be laughing if he's... No, there's something going wrong here.
Yeah.
Things started to go badly. Kildare's brother James seized Carlow Castle, and it took Ormond and Poynings several months to get it back. The border chiefs were starting to backtrack on the promises to Poynings, and Desmond was trying to rally support for Perkin. So, again, see what happens when Kildare isn't there. As we heard all that time ago in Perkin's episode, after the fiasco at Deal in Kent, when his troops were lured away and then arrested, or dispatched, after the promise of free beer, Perkin sailed onto Ireland, and on the 23rd of July he rocked up at Waterford with 11 ships and blockaded the port. Poynings marched south, and by the 3rd of August he had broken the blockade and had captured 3 of Perkin's ships. Desmond and Perkin retreated, and Perkin carried on up to Scotland. So the immediate threat to Poynings and Henry's rule in Ireland had been neutralised. There had been some support for Perkin, but not much, and that was largely to create factions within Ireland which they could use to further their dynastic ambitions, rather than any love for Perkin himself. So on the whole, not a bad outcome for Henry.
No. He lucked out there.
Desmond was then pardoned, on condition he sent his son to Henry, and swore an oath of allegiance. I don't want people to be executed, but all this pardoning just seems a bit bizarre. So that poor boy has been sent all over the place. I suppose it wasn't appropriate for this boy to be at Kildare's court if Kildare is in prison in England. By the end of 1496, Kildare had been forgiven for his past misdemeanours and had been welcomed back into the fold. It had been made very clear to Henry that Ireland just didn't run properly without him. Poynings was then called back to England, leaving Poynings' law behind him. For more of that, listen to his episode. But the gist is that the law was almost certainly drawn up in England before he left, and all he had to do was get it past the Irish Parliament. And the more draconian part wasn't enacted until Henry VIII's reign. So it's not entirely fair to blame Poynings. Also, the purpose of the Act was not getting at Kildare and trying to lessen his authority. It was trying to lessen the authority of any one lord in the Pale. Don't think you can be so powerful as to be able to ignore the king, is its main message. But it also strengthened the governor's ability to act as the king's representative. There was a statute in Poynings' law which made it treason for anyone to incite others to make war on him. Making war on the deputy was making war on the king. Which is quite handy for Kildare later on, when he becomes deputy again.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened around this time, which is famous more for what Kildare said, rather than the event itself. He set fire to Cashel Cathedral. He was deadly enemies, he so often seems to be deadly enemies with someone. This time it was Archbishop David Creagh. And when taken to task about his deed, Kildare said, quote, "I'm bloody sorry I did it, but I declare to God, I thought the Archbishop was inside," unquote. Yeah, I wouldn't have done it if I'd realised he wasn't there.
Oh, wow.
So he's openly admitting that he intended to burn the Archbishop to death.
Awesome.
And the fact that Kildare was reappointed to his post as deputy shows that burning a cathedral and trying to kill an archbishop were no barriers for getting on in life.
Nope.
Some people have said that Henry failed in his policy since he was forced to reappoint Kildare. But it's questionable whether he had a policy. He was probably just reacting to events. Perkin in Ireland was just the beginning of his Perkin-related sleepless nights. Once Perkin had left Ireland, Henry's main worry moved to Scotland, and Ireland wasn't the focus that it had been. Also, after Henry's aims in Ireland had been achieved by Poynings, Kildare seemed to be the obvious choice to carry on the work. Now, this is a man who'd been sent back to England to be attainted for treason. Why is he now being returned to his position as Deputy Lieutenant? Well, the clue may be in what Henry said of him. Quote, "All Ireland cannot govern this Earl. Then let this Earl govern all Ireland." Unquote. So this is a huge acknowledgement of Kildare's indispensability. Yes, he committed treason
But
twice, and he tried to set fire to an archbishop.
yeah.
But he's still the best man for the job.
Oh, God.
Henry was faced with three things regarding Kildare's reinstatement. Firstly, what was he to do with him if he didn't send him back to Ireland? Did he really want to execute him for treason? No, because he now realised that Poynings had been wrong or misled. Kildare hadn't been inciting the Gaelic lords to attack Poynings. He really had been negotiating for peace and had been falsely arrested.
Okay.
Secondly, when he had been deputy, Kildare had been very effective, so it made sense for him to carry on. And Henry was sure that if he handled Kildare well, he could be a real asset to English rule. And thirdly, Henry had discovered that there was no way he'd be able to instigate a self-financing invasion of the Gaelic parts of Ireland. That had been a pipe dream. Would Ireland ever be in a position to make money rather than take it? It seemed very unlikely. And without Perkin there, was Ireland really as important as all that? So what was there to lose if Kildare was deputy again?
That's true, because he's not getting money out of Ireland. Or at least not enough for Henry to focus on it.
He only focused on it because he had the worries of
Simnel and Perkin. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he'd have even given it much thought if it hadn't been for that.
Nope.
And there was another reason for Kildare's reinstatement. His, quote, urgent entreaty, unquote. Let me be deputy.
Yeah, please.
Let me be deputy.
Please.
Let me be deputy. Come on, Henry. Until Henry said, OK, fine. And it's another example of a situation starting one way and finishing at 180 degrees.
The other way, yeah.
Kildare had been called to England to answer charges, and he ended up being reinstated as deputy lieutenant, like De Vere escaping and taking his jailer with him.
This is frustrating, actually. He is...
Well, you don't think he should be?
Well, okay, you're committing treason.
Yeah.
End of story. Do I need to make another reason here?
It is extraordinary. I suppose it is odd.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
They got to know each other. I mean, Kildare had been in England for several months.
Does he think because he met him that he won't commit treason again?
Well, maybe they were able to say to each other, well, why did you do it? And he said, this reason. He might have thought, well, yeah, there's logic in that. I might have done the same. And, once you talk to someone face to face, and
he said he was sorry.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Won't do it again. Well, I might, but...
Can you be my special friend?
Well, just to cement the deal, Henry agreed to Kildare marrying Elizabeth St. John, or Elizabeth St. John, Henry's cousin. So Kildare is now part of the family. And Henry gave them a dowry of 600 marks in cash and land worth 200 marks a year.
I wish we knew how she felt about it.
I know, it's just been dished up to this man.
And you're going to go live in Ireland. And England had opinions about Ireland.
Yes. Yeah, and it's quite dangerous. So,
yeah.
Look after yourself.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Stay in the castle.
I'm going to say goodbye because I'm not expecting to see you again.
Ouch! Wow.
Yeah. Kildare was required to agree to a few other conditions. His son had to live in Henry's court, which he did for the next 7 years. Kildare had to defend Ireland from the king's enemies, which you'd have thought would be part of a remit for the job anyway. He had to observe Poynings' law, and forget all his old quarrels. No more fighting in the streets of Dublin with other families. But his tenure was for 10 years, and he could appoint all other officers apart from the chancellorship, and he was being paid more for the job than Poynings had been. I think Henry must have been quite happy to say goodbye to Ireland. Just say, you sort it. He spent £12,000 in the past couple of years, mainly on the army. And normal Irish revenue didn't go anywhere near to covering it. He did get a bit back selling those 3 ships they got from Perkin. But Henry, because of what you said about Ireland, but Henry had to pay higher wages there as well because people didn't want to go. I mean, more for them, it's beautiful, but then, yes, you might not feel safe.
Yeah.
When Kildare landed back in Ireland, many of the Irish lords fell over themselves to swear fealty to Kildare and Henry, and to hand over their sons as proof of good behaviour. Quote, "The king could have put no man in authority here that in so short space, and with so little cost, could have set this land in so good order as it is now, but this man only," unquote. So, I think Henry's right to forgive him. He does a very good job. And if you don't want to do it yourself, get someone who can do it well. The Irish lords saw no distinction between swearing loyalty to the king and swearing loyalty to Kildare himself. This is what made him such a good deputy, when he wanted to be, because he had all those lords behind him. But it's also what made him such a dangerous proposition should he decide to rebel against the king, because he had all those lords behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And this must have been a concern for Henry. But luckily for Henry, Kildare didn't do that. He stuck scrupulously to the terms of his contract. He maintained peace with his traditional enemies, even though the butlers weren't keen on Kildare's rehabilitation. And when Perkin landed in Ireland, having been asked to leave Scotland, both Kildare and the Earl of Desmond said they would have captured him and sent him to Henry had he been in Ireland longer. But they chased him away, and Perkin had to head to Cornwall in a barrel. So not only are Kildare and Desmond on the same side, but they're both on Henry's side. So, great. The historian Stephen G. Ellis wrote that at this particular moment, with the reinstatement of Kildare, Henry VII could be said to have solved the Irish problem. That's nice. No more problems of any sort for Ireland. By 1499, so effective had Kildare's policy of taking over land from the Gaelic lords been that there was peace enough to hold a parliament in the county of Carlow, which hadn't been possible to do for over a century. But this peace was brought about by Kildare constantly battling the Irish lords, which in my opinion isn't really a peace, if you've got peace by constantly battling. A few times Kildare wrote to Henry asking for troops and weapons to keep the Irish lords down, but Henry didn't think it was worth it. Quote, "Little advantage, all profit, hath grown of such armies and captains," unquote. He's obviously thinking, I don't have to worry about Ireland anymore. What am I forking out all this money for? On the whole, Kildare was very successful. Why? Well, for a start, he had the king's support. Except when he didn't see profit in sending troops. And he had the support of most of the other lords in the Pale. He also had access to artillery, so he could flush his enemies out of the castle. But his main ally, if you can call it that, was the disunity of the Irish lords.
That's true. They'd fight each other just as much as they'd fight him.
He was able to play them off against each other, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He was aware of the local customs of each of the Gaelic laws and negotiated with them within those laws, while still keeping to the English laws himself, although some accused him of picking and choosing which law he would follow, depending on which would be more beneficial to him. But it seemed to do the trick. Unlike the English-born deputies who'd been shipped out to Ireland and who frankly couldn't wait to get home, Kildare spoke Gaelic, he understood the Gaelic lords, it was his home. He couldn't stop incursions by Gaelic Irish into the Pale completely, that's just what happens when you have borders. But, he did well enough that the king was appreciative of his abilities and rewarded him with the Order of the Garter. He has been seen as the great Earl who could have made himself the King of Ireland. He had the support of most of the Anglo-English earls and some of the Gaelic ones. he could have risen up and forced the Pale to accept him as King of Ireland, and some historians have claimed that's what he wanted to do.
Well, if he could have, and they think he could have, then why wouldn't he if he wanted to? I don't know. That seems a little suspect.
It seems he very much saw himself as a representative in Ireland of King Henry.
Yeah.
There's no indication that he ever had ambition to make himself King of Ireland.
No, I don't agree with that interpretation at all.
Yeah, no, I didn't. He's always looking for more royal involvement in Irish affairs rather than less. I don't think he wanted to be king. No. In 1503, Henry called Kildare to the English court. Kildare received back his son and his son's new wife, Elizabeth Zouch. It must have been very odd for him. He left him there as a little boy, and he goes and picks him up, and he's got a wife and everything. And she's another relative of Henry VII. The son, also annoyingly called Gerald, was made Treasurer of Ireland to give him a bit of practice ruling. So obviously Henry wasn't averse to any dynastic ambitions Kildare might have had. But Kildare's mode of governing was very personal. He made contact with the Irish lords himself, very much on an intimate basis. Would they feel the same about his son? Especially given that little Gerald had spent 10 of his 16 years in the English court. Mm-hmm. Well, we'll have to wait and see about that. The 1508-09 Parliament was curtailed by Henry VII's death. Kildare sent Henry VIII a letter saying that the situation in Ireland wasn't conducive to a jaunt over to England. I think he had a whole pile of those letters printed out. All he had to do was put the date at the top and send them off. Can't come. Henry VIII replied with a summons. Get your backside over here. I'm the king. Do as you're told. Well, Kildare sent Henry several more excuses, but finally, in 1511, he said, I'm on my way. No, I'm not. I've just been wounded. Oh, damn, I was so looking forward to it too. And yet, despite what seems like ranking subordination, Kildare's tenure as deputy was confirmed by Henry VIII. By the time of his death, Kildare had been deputy for 33 years and was generally considered to have done an exceptional job. So how did he die? He was skilled in the black arts and was a shapeshifter. However, he would never let his wife see him take on other forms, much to her annoyance, and after she had said, please, 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 he gave in to her and turned himself into a goldfinch before her very eyes. But just then a sparrowhawk flew into the room, seized the goldfinch and flew off with it, and he was never seen again. Anyway, shall we rate him?
Yeah.
I could tell you a different version of his death.
Oh?
He was famous for not taking things seriously, especially those things that should be taken seriously in battle.
Oh.
On one occasion, one of his captains brought him some troops and asked what they should be doing, and Kildare told them just to stand and watch. He thought it'd be good for morale if they saw that he was so blasé that they were outnumbered by the enemy that he didn't even bother using all the troops they had got.
Oh,
and it worked. He won.
Oh.
But fortunately, he was mortally wounded in the battle and died shortly after. But I prefer to go with the goldfinch.
Yes.
And Fibberly.
Intrigue.
Well, he committed treason twice.
Yep.
He was heavily involved in it.
Yep.
That kind of gives it a 10 out of 10.
Yeah, he seems to be a Teflon man.
Yeah.
Nothing sticks to him.
Yeah. What else could be an Fibberly if it isn't treason? And he did it twice.
Yeah. You do think, what could he have done that would have made him be punished? If you've committed treason twice and freely admitted you wanted to burn an archbishop.
Yes.
You think, I can't think of anything he could have done that would
be
that Henry would say, right, no, that's enough.
Yeah. Well, killing Mum.
Yeah, okay.
I'm giving him a 10.
I think so, yeah.
So that's a 10 for Fibberly. Full marks. Do we have anybody else that got full marks? William Stanley, Thomas Stanley, Ferdinand. Philip the Fair.
Yeah, we've had
Yeah,
some
we've had a few. Okay.
pretty sneaky people. haven't
Yeah.
Anti-peristasis.
we? He started as Earl and Deputy Lieutenant. He had a brief moment as Regent.
Yeah.
He was in prison.
Yeah.
And then back to Earl and Deputy Lieutenant again.
0. He didn't go up, he didn't go down.
Well, he went up and down.
Yeah, but
I mean, he was... do you think being Regent counts if the person is not really king?
I don't know, but rise and fall, he ended up at the same place at the end.
Yeah, but I feel that's... if things happen to you in between...
Okay.
I don't think it's massive, because it's not a rags to riches or riches to rags story.
Yeah, and I'm looking back at our other ones. We ranked Lambert Simnel pretty high, and he ended up as a serving boy.
Yeah, but he started off as an organ maker's son, became king, and then became a serving boy.
Yeah.
That's quite a
jump.
trajectory.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he wasn't executed. I mean,
Yeah, that's just... I don't understand that at all.
It shows he must have been quite a phenomenal character.
Yeah.
To be able to convince people you can't do it without me.
Yeah.
I mean, you can maybe execute me, but what's going to happen to Ireland? It'd just be complete anarchy. Then all the monarchs he's worked for have said, best not then.
He said.
Yes. I think. I don't want to give him masses, but 4. Because I think regent, when the person you're regenting isn't really king,
Yeah, it doesn't
count for a huge amount.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with that. 4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Martyrdom.
I'm kind of feeling a 10. You committed treason twice. It's luck that you didn't... Well, no, because he didn't die, so it couldn't be 10.
No.
But you were willing to commit treason multiple times.
He was willing to commit treason so that he could do better, so that he could have more.
Yeah.
I don't feel that's martyrdom, really. It's greed
Yeah.
as much as anything.
Yeah, true.
Almost anti-martyrdom.
Yeah, it's not a belief.
No. It's a belief in himself. You do get the impression he had a very great belief in himself.
Yeah, yeah, I guess so.
No, I can't give him much.
No.
I'll give him 1 for risking things, but he wasn't risking it for a belief.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, you're giving him a 1. I'm going to give him a 2 just because he did it twice.
That's true. Yes, that's true. Yeah, I'll go for 2.
Okay.
Although we're matching all the way there.
Be team.
Well, the great Earl and his soldiers now slumber in a cavern beneath Loch Gur in County Limerick, ready to awaken and defend Ireland in her hour of need.
Really?
He rides around the curragh on his steed, and when his horse's shoes are worn down to the thickness of a cat's ear, he will lead his army against the English, drive them out, and reign as King of Ireland for 40 years. And I would say you can't get better team than that.
No, that's awesome. He's mythical.
He's mythical, yeah. Although, as a mythical supernatural being, 40 years sounds puny.
40 years is not much.
It should be 1001 or something, shouldn't it?
But he's like the Irish Arthur. Okay, I'm going to give him a 10 because he's myth.
And he's a shapeshifter. I mean, he's a shapeshifter. And also, he's a political myth as well, because the Irish look back on him as a great saviour. He left Ireland in a more stable than it had been for a long time, but I'm not sure we can class that as Batim since it didn't last.
Yeah, but I'm still giving him a 10. He turned into a myth.
He turned into a myth, he turned into a goldfinch.
Yeah. Sort of the same. Okay. Yeah, 10.
We've matched all the way through. That's not good, is it?
No.
Okay.
Flaunt a bleeding flaunt.
Yes.
Okay, you might hear a slight change in tone here because this is take 2 of Flaunt to Flaunt. I was just about to publish part 1 this morning and I realised that the picture I had shown Michelle of Gerald Fitzgerald is of Gerald Fitzgerald, but not that one.
Yes.
We talked at length about how his pose didn't look like him, did it? It looked rather hesitant and a bit...
Yes.
Oh,
Soft.
should I be here?
Yeah.
And we said, it doesn't fit with his personality. No, it may fit with his son's personality. We'll find out.
Not his.
But we haven't got a picture of him. We have a crest, which is the Fitzgerald red cross on a white background, a sort of X shape.
Yes.
And then it's got Oniswaki Malipons, which presumably is what he put on when he got the garter.
Yeah, I didn't think they were allowed to put that onto the crest because the crest should stay there for the family and the next one may not get it. I don't know.
Oh, there's changes. It changes. They have the basic crest. They have the white with the red square, red cross.
And then everybody adds or subtracts.
Yeah, you put on your own individual thing.
Okay.
I when I looked at it, I thought, that's interesting. Why's there a crown on the top?
That's my question. That's very,
Well, I checked. It's to show loyalty to the English king. It's not saying, I want to be king.
Is that what the original crown looked like? I don't think it is. Is it?
It looks quite modern, doesn't it? It looks
Yes,
like
it
the sort of thing well, I say modern. I mean, the ones that they're still wearing.
Yes.
I mean, that's really put.
Okay.
Originally, you gave him 6 and I gave him 7, but that's
Yes, 'cause
because
we like
it was
the
a completely
pagan.
different picture.
Yes. We don't have anything of him, but we do have something that reminds us of him.
I think the fact it's got the Fitzgerald cross, it's got the Garter Maniponce thing, and it's got the look how loyal I am.
It's got the symbolism we keep looking for.
I'm going to go for 3, one of each.
I'm going to give him a 2.
Okay.
Because I'm disappointed it's not his face.
Yeah. Yeah, it does seem odd that there's nothing. But he was a busy man. He probably didn't have time to stand still for hours and hours having his picture taken. So 2 for you, 3 for me.
So now he's at 54.5. Which is still higher than some others.
Yeah.
He beat out Christopher Columbus, Charles the Eighth. Surprise. Yeah. Okay. And he beat out Reginald Bray.
Yeah.
That's odd. Bray
Yes.
probably worked harder. Poor Bray.
Yes, I do feel if only we'd known a bit about him, we might have given him a much higher score.
Yes. But we got no personality out of his information. Just somebody who worked like a robot.
Yes, whereas we do have a bit of personality about Gerald.
Yeah. Not my favorite, but yeah.
Don't know, there's not much to choose from.
No.
So we have a question.
Are they too delicious or what?
I want to say yes.
I'm a definite yes.
there you go.
We're going to have to blow the dust off the cheers because we haven't used them for so long.
Yeah, I mean, he committed treason twice and got away with it.
He didn't just get away with it. He was, promoted back into his job.
You can still lead this country. Yep, 100%, yes.
And I'm sure most Irish people listening would be pleased because he is a popular figure in Irish history.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well done, Gerald.
Yeah.
Good, you've broken the sort of dearth of Tudorliciouses that we've had.
Yeah, I kind of expected more fist fights from somebody who had 2 rebellions, but...
No, it seemed to be more...
Intellectual rebellion.
It did. I mean, apart from his thing with the butlers, where he chased them into a cathedral and smashed the door down.
Yeah.
But even then, they must have been cowering in there, and then suddenly his arm shoots through. Yeah. He says, "Come on, shake.
Yeah.
Let's be friends." Well, we weren't expecting that. But you have to remember he did try to set fire to an archbishop.
Yes. Yes, he did.
But he didn't like him.
No.
I don't know if that counts. Oh, next one.
Yes. Get out the bag. Oh, this one will be good. And she was mentioned. Cecily of York.
The other one. We've done one. Oh, we get to find out what she thought when her son said that his brother was illegitimate.
Yes! Yes, we will.
The fact she was known as Proud Sis makes me think she's not going to be entirely
no.
happy about this. Okay, great.
Cool.
Yes. We've only got about 6 left after that, I think. Get in there.
Nice. That is the end of our episode on Gerald Fitzgerald, a.k.a. Kildare. We hope you have enjoyed it and will join us for the next episode on... We don't know.
Oh, we do know. On Henry's Kids.
Henry's Kids. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening.
You can find details of the podcast and contact us on...
Tudoriferous.wordpress.com. Email tudoriferous@gmail.com. We're on Podbean and all the usual platforms. Also Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
In the meantime... The lining of his coffers shall make coats to deck our soldiers for their Irish wars.
'Tis like the howling of Irish wolves against the moon.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Sometimes life can feel like a lead weight holding you down. Sometimes life can feel like I'm always wearing a frown. Sometimes life can feel like it's full of trouble and doubt. And sometimes life just uses me and spits me out. When life feels so grey that I wonder what it's all for, and every day's the same and everything's a chore, I must grab life with both hands and squeeze it till it squeaks. And sometimes I must aspire to those lofty peaks. And I will fly away, leave all my cares behind me, somewhere they can't find me. I'll spread my wings and reach up to the skies, and I will fly away. I'll head for the horizon, and I will keep my eyes on my future as I wave the world goodbye. And here I go.